Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our Paws on Netflix podcast.
Today we're covering the FMA sequel no one thought was ever going to come out at this point for a live-action Fullmetal Alchemist, The Revenge of Scar. What revenge?
We thought he already got his revenge in the anime and the manga.
Yeah, right?
Well, when a mysterious figure starts to target state alchemists for their sins against God, alchemist Edward Ehrlich and his brother Alphonse are at their most vulnerable. Really?
They are?
Meanwhile, the homunculi begin to unveil themselves once again. This is the summary that they have as the plot for this movie. So if it sounds as off to you as it does to us, let us know in the comments below.
Yes. And before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and notification updates on future podcasts and past videos.
And yes, you're right. This is nothing we ever expected to see when we heard the announcement. There was going to be not one but two movies additional coming out. You couldn't believe it.
Right.
It was like, didn't you get it wrong enough the first time?
Right. And in 2017, they announced immediately after they finished. So we thought, okay, well, it's been 5 years. They're not going to do it. And then sometime in July, they announced, oh, the next movie's coming out next month. And we're looking like, what? It's out. Well, I thought you just canceled it. Because remember, they planned on doing this, and they did Cowboy Bebop, they're going to do One Piece, Yu Yu Hakusho, Dr. Stone, they're going to do a bunch of these others. So really, this was the last thing on our radar because we had enough with the first one.
Yes, and I want to share with you one thing IMDb mentions as trivia, which it really isn't trivia. If you watch the movie, you see it. It says, Fullmetal Alchemist manga and anime takes place in a European society with Caucasian characters, while the live-action movies use Asian, Japanese actors to play Caucasian characters, whereby the entire European society is Asian, which is a massive deviation from the source material. No
Yeah,
kidding.
no kidding. Yeah, and that was another thing. We kind of assume, a lot of people assume, well, they really just wanted to have more of the ones that you knew were Asian in there first because they just deviated altogether and made up their own story. I was like, okay, so this one, they included some characters that were missing from the first one. But no, they continued to have all Japanese and they put on makeup and costumes to make it look like they were Western.
Yes.
So they just pretended they were Western and you had to imagine they were Western like in the manga.
And it's odd to me because when they're making this, you know that their intention is not just to have it air in Japan. They want to make the dollar. So, you know they want other people in other countries to watch it.
Right.
But for some reason, you don't understand, they don't put any variety in the cast. However, if other countries were to do that same thing and want to market to them, it would be a problem.
Right.
But you know, that's the price you pay for loving anime and manga. And for them to sign it, there should be a live action version. There really should.
Right.
Now, like to say there are some improvements, unbelievably so, that happen in this movie.
Yes.
And the first is the actor who plays Ed. Let me get his name. Ryusuke. And the whole thing is
Yamada?
Yes. He really seemed to get more into the role this time. His acting has improved. And he wasn't as bulky, and he looked really, really muscled and huge to be Al. Well, you can see he literally slimmed his body down. His face was slimmer. The hair was done better. I don't know if that was him or makeup. And his acting was better. So, have to give credit that he really had an improvement from the first movie.
Right.
Gotta give him credit. Much, much better.
Yes.
Really fit the character much better.
Yes, I had to say we weren't laughing so hard as much with him because the first time he was so over the top, you couldn't take it seriously. It made him look weaker. But in here, he had more improvement in portraying the character. There were still some things that were kind of like Ed wouldn't do, but it wasn't so much where it felt like a whole other character.
And it wasn't because of him, it was because the direction he was given and the writing of the script. So kudos to him doing a much, much improved version of Ed and really preparing himself for the role. I love when actors do that. And yeah, he needs to get much, much acclaim for doing that. Much better job. The second thing that was better is now Alphonse's character could move around.
Yes.
Before it was CGI and he just stood in one place.
Right.
But this time they had the actor moving in the costume, and then they made the sounds like it was metal moving.
Right.
That was much better as well.
Right, so finally felt like he was actually there. And the set designs were still pretty good, because that was the best thing of the first movie, that they made it look like they were the places in the anime. And they did get a little closer to the character designs. Like this time we have Bradley in here, and we have Ling. They look closer to their counterparts.
They did great casting on Wrath. I would just say he should have been taller. But other than that, yes, he was spot on. The acting was really well. I would have liked a deeper voice for the English dub, but that's okay. He fit really well, and so did Ling. They did a really great job, because I didn't know what they were going to do with Ling.
Right.
He's such a beloved character. We love him as well, and we were really happy that not only did they get someone who looked like he fit the role, his acting was really great, and the voice actor, of course, was Top Havercorn.
Right,
excited
turning,
about. So it was perfect. So that was, we were really happy to see that as well.
Right. Now, for the rest...
There was a little more. They had Hohenheim.
Yeah, go ahead.
And he was too short as well.
Yeah.
But he did fit the character. He did fit the role.
They at least gave him the right makeup and everything.
And we had Granny. We were really happy to see her.
Yes.
And she fit.
Right, and so they finally had Major Armstrong in here.
Yes. Now, the only problem is he wasn't tall enough.
No.
He wasn't buff enough. And it looked like the costume made his head look too small.
Yeah, it did. And he was missing his sparkles when he would do his alchemy. The flair that some of the characters have still aren't there. And I think that was extra.
Yes. And as you said, the setting, the backdrop, everything looked beautiful as before. That was fantastic. Oh, and they also had Granny's dog.
Yes. Oh, yes. And they look exactly like the dog in the show. And they did part of the scene we really love when Ed was trying to lure Scar out, and he pretended he was going around like a showman and fixing everything with alchemy. And they started doing well. It was funny.
Yes.
With the poses, and then
we were so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, because I've used this like a billion times.
Right, and then out pulls him away and asked him what is he doing. So unfortunately, that was almost like it was half done right and then half not right, because Al was doing it with him and doing like a little fanfare for him, and they kind of stopped the comedy after a couple minutes, like, okay, time to get back to the plot, like, but it wasn't enough time to laugh at it. They cut it too short.
And we also have to mention the return of
Caitlin Glass.
We were so happy to hear her as Winry.
Yes.
And
she still did great, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Yes, she was perfect. It's like she never left. Like there was no time gap. Like she'd never been away. Same for Todd Havercorn.
Yes.
They were brilliant as usual. So those are the great things that we can remember right now about it. And now for the things that were not so great.
Right.
The first and the most important thing was, how in the hell do you not have Ed return? How in the hell? And I'm going to say it twice, because I was really, really not happy when we heard that Vic Mignogna was not going to be voicing. We heard it hours before we decided to watch the movie.
Yes.
And I was so pissed. I'm like, well, I'm not going to watch it. And Rascal was like, come on.
You're right. It has to be pretty bad for us to not watch a movie. But this wasn't like that level.
Not happy. I was really not happy.
And
he wasn't Ed. I mean, again, we gave credit to him improving his acting and the visuals and everything. That can't be taken away. But as far as the dubbing, I don't know who the voice actor was. We kind of think it might have been Chef Hiro Soma's voice actor, but it wasn't.
Oh yeah, it's Blake Shepard. I think it was Blake Shepard, because he usually does replacement voices on Netflix.
And love him, but he's not Vic. This is Vic's role. He created this. He made the character come alive. And nothing that's going on has anything to do with Netflix.
Right.
So there was no excuse for them not having him return to do the voice.
Right.
So that there was the biggest piece of garbage that they ever could have done.
Yeah. And it's the first time in history you have Fullmetal Alchemist media not be voiced by Vic Mignogna. No matter if it was the game, both animes, movies, even the first live action movie dubbed had him in it, and that kind of made it a little more enjoyable because you were hearing him go crazy. But here, part of the enjoyment was not there. Even when we were laughing at it, and with the improvements of the actor physically, the voice actor just wasn't hitting the craziness, and the dubbing wasn't hitting as crazy as the original movie. He was just kind of saying the lines and trying to sound angry. Like, they called him short, they kept that in, but instead of being spastic and saying all this stuff, he just sounds like everything is so under control. Like, he's not right. He's so under control. He's like, he doesn't go yelling and flipping out and everything. It's like they told him to rein it in and don't go crazy.
Now, one of the biggest things here is noticing that the events that take place within the anime and the manga have all been shuffled.
Yes.
And were out of place and did not follow chronologically like you expected to follow in the other two versions.
Yes. They even had May in here. She's in here way too early.
Yeah.
And instead of building up where she loves Ed until she sees him, she immediately hates him and is immediately in love with Al, all because he accidentally stepped on her back.
Well, forget that. May in the anime is, I think, 10 years old, and here she's a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah, what the heck?
And you were like, well, you could have at least got maybe someone who was 18.
Right.
That looked younger, but no, it just didn't work. It was like watching the MHA live action play all It didn't work. And no offense to the actress, but it just didn't work. It was not good casting.
Yes.
They should have made someone younger to play the role.
Yes, I agree. And then you have Scar introduced in here as well. He's the main sort of antagonist, because I say sort of because they start off exactly how he's introduced, and that's how I open the movie, and two things are up with him. One, he doesn't know who Ed is. Some random soldier screams out his name, and they thought, "Oh, you're Ed Elric, time for you to get killed." And then, like, near the end of the film, Scar's redeemed immediately. They keep in where what happened, he took out Mummy's parents, instead of him taking out the alchemist. He didn't take out Nina, so she's still technically alive, so that's the only crime he didn't commit. It just seemed like they kind of like, he was a cruel criminal in the beginning, and then redeemed at the end because they have to follow the manga. So it didn't really feel like it was earned. It just felt like, this is what happened in the anime, better put it in because we can't have him be 2, 3, 4, 5 antagonists like we did the first movie.
Right. And then you told me that the one who plays his role is going to be Zorro in the live action one.
Right. So not only will he had the same tan as him and the scar and the outfit, but he didn't have the same presence as Scar in the anime. So I kind of made me concerned, if he couldn't have the same presence as Scar, how is he gonna have the same presence as Zorro when they're almost the same type of character in terms of build and intimidation?
And then a real insult to the actor himself is when you go into IMDb and they list the cast, you would think he would be right after Edward and Al. Mm-hmm. Well, you've got Ed first, then you got Winry, Roy Mustang, Riza, and you keep scrolling, and this guy isn't even listed.
Yeah.
His name isn't even listed. Why would you not put him in here? If it's called The Revenge of Scar, then one of the first few actors that should be shown and named in the cast should be the actor playing Scar.
Right.
So that's just,
Exactly. That's just kind of insulting due to him, and he's supposed to be the almost titular character in there.
Right. Now, as far as his performance, it was okay. It wasn't what we were expecting because, is it Travis Willingham?
No,
that's Roy.
Right, it is.
Scar.
Was supposed to be J. Michael Tatum, but it wasn't here. They have some younger voice actors.
But in hearing him before, he's just made the role his own, and you really were hoping for something close to that. And yes, I asked Rascal because sometimes I've got so much going through my head. It's like, But he had to make the role his own. We understand that. But it wasn't even reminiscent of the Scar in the manga when you're reading it.
Right.
He did make it his own. So we'll give him that much credit.
Yeah.
But it was more like a stone-faced Scar who had no emotions to match the action and the drama that was going on in the scenes. It just wasn't being delivered. Also, he's much shorter than the character was in the anime and the manga.
Yeah.
He towered over people. And you could see them doing the camera thing for not only him, but also for Alphonse.
Right.
They did a camera angle to make it look like Ed was real low beneath them, but you knew when you would see them at a distance that no, that wasn't what was happening.
Right. And it was unfortunately the same thing for Mustang. Dean Fujioka returned as playing him, and there was really no difference. No. The only time his no expressionist was fine was during the Ishvalan War, which they showed in here almost the entire thing. That was the only time it fit because that's what happened in the manga, and you weren't sure what he was feeling.
And I'm so happy you brought that up because that was also one of the big improvements here. In the first movie, you would see where they were telling you they were conveying information, doing flashback, it would be nothing like it. But for that particular scene, it was literally one-to-one.
Yes.
It was perfectly done, you might as well say. As perfect as you're ever going to get from a live-action anime adaptation. They did a great job in doing it one-for-one to the anime and the manga and the happenings. That was done really well.
Yes.
And it brought about the same emotions and the same reaction, even though you knew what was coming. So they did an excellent job on that scene.
Yes, definitely. That's definitely one of the improvements. And then you have, as it gets further in, they have one of the bigger parts of the series that it was hard to tell what was happening or going for it. They had the scene where both Winry and Ed now find out that Scar killed her parents. Well, first someone from the Ishvalan country told Ed, and they wanted to confirm with Scar. They kept all that in. Then they have Winry come in, and then she overhears it. That was kept in. But then it got to her breakdown, and it was the oddest thing I had seen in the movie that was half funny, half confusing. When the actress playing Winry is doing the one where she's breaking down in tears and, even considering shooting Scar for doing that, and it's a heavy scene in the anime and the manga, but in the live action movie, it was a weird thing. The actress was like really over the top. It was doing things that
Tsubasa Honda.
Thank you. She was really over the top. It wasn't even stuff that you could take it seriously. It felt like it was really too much. But then you get to Caitlin Glass dubbing, and she was perfect. She was exactly how it was in the anime. She sounded more traumatized and in danger with the voice actor than the actress herself. And the actress it was like over the top and grabbing her head and everything, and none of that was done in the anime.
As usual, whenever these people act these roles now, no tears. I miss the days of when you would see actors have these roles and they would have tears. They would really convincingly have you feel what they were feeling and convey it. And now there are no tears. They just go through the motions, scrunching up their faces, and it just doesn't happen. And here it really worked against the movie itself.
Yeah, it did.
All these elements didn't come together. And the best part of the scene was Caitlin.
Yes, and that was one of the weirdest things with us. It's how is she outperforming the actress she's dubbing for? How is you doing that?
She's got it like that.
Right? And then we have, when it gets to the end of the film, they kind of end it with when Gluttony accidentally eats Envy and Ed and Ling. That's where the movie ends with.
And I'm glad you brought that up before you make that statement. We gotta talk about the homunculi. Envy in the first movie, at least Envy was actually literally almost spot on. Perfectly done. This time, maybe the actor had been away from the role too long, and it wasn't that same performance. And the voice actor also didn't convey Envy the way it was the first time. So that was unfortunately one thing that deteriorated, was Envy in the performance of Envy.
Right.
They got it right the first time. This one, not really.
Right.
The special effects for Gluttony were spot on. Were excellent. They couldn't have done it any better. Seeing where they were and the place they went once you got eaten by Gluttony. That was done perfectly as well. Who else did we see? I told you we saw Father. Father was in here as well.
Right.
And you only saw the back of him.
Right, but it was the same actor.
You only saw the back of him and him being disconnected. You never saw him from the front. So I guess for those who haven't read the manga or seen the anime, they'll be surprised when they see the next movie. We won't say anymore. And then they had Salim this time.
Right. And now you know who Salim is, so you know that he's most likely going to be one of the bigger threats in the final movie. Because they took out Lust the first film. We thought Envy was gone, but then he came back, and now we got Gluttony back. So pretty much the main homunculi villains were Envy and Gluttony. And it looks like the next film, because they tell Ed and Al and Mustang all up front, Bradley's a homunculi, don't trust him. So all of the buildup, they erase. So now the next movie, he's immediately an antagonist. Right. So, and then all they're missing now is Sloth. So I'm going to guess he's going to be in the last movie too. And Greed's going to be in the last movie because they just introduced
Well, I sure hope they have Greed, because it was really weird not seeing him make an appearance in here. You have a whole over 2-hour movie.
Right.
And Ling Yao, but no
Greed. So it looks like the way the movie ends, the next movie is them trying to get out of Gluttony. They're going to meet Father, and there's going to be them going to the North.
Right. So
now they have to fit in the North arc, and then everything else happens in the series towards the end into the final film, because they said this is the last movie. The movie's called The Final Alchemy, not Final Transmutation. The Final Alchemy. And I don't know how they're going to fit. People say, how are they going to fit from that point on to the end of the series in 2 hours, unless it's going to be a 4-hour movie, which I don't even know if people will stay that long, but they stay for Justice League, so maybe.
So, we did see it. We've seen the average rating being 5.3 out of 10.
So,
I
average.
We'll go up to 6.
Yeah.
Because of the improvements, because it looks good. It really does look good, as you can see from screenshots you've seen as we've been doing the podcast.
Right.
We actually took those while we were watching the movie.
Right. And there's even this one line here they have towards the beginning where they're on a train because the train always gets robbed, and they try to get out the guy that was taking them hostage, and he's saying, well, why is he laughing, or he can't get away? And then he said,
people exploded today!
And then the train exploded! What the heck is going on? That's how the movie almost opened, within it!
Oh my god.
That was when they started getting uncanny. All the humor was just uncanny.
So we would give it a 6 out of 10, actually rating it higher than the first movie. So let's hope the final movie, or the final alchemy, that they actually work some alchemy and make the last movie outstanding.
Right.
We can always hope. And then that will be, hey, here's change. Here's maybe the catalyst, the beginning of making live action adaptations better than before. We can only hope, most likely.
Right, for Netflix.
So if you have seen, I'm just going to say The Revenge of Scar, let us know in the comments below. If you saw it the first day it came out, or yesterday like we did, what were your thoughts? What did you think they did better? What did you think they did worse? Are you looking forward to the final movie? And if you haven't, it's available exclusively right now on Netflix to view.
Right. And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and videos on your favorite anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
And let's also hope that by then they have the good sense to have Vic do the English dub for Ed.
Yes.
That something is worked out, that they realize they don't have anything to do with what's happening. All they should be doing is supplying us excellent voice acting talent. Now, that has been said, there is excellent voice acting talent. What I should say is providing us the voices of the people we know and love who do the voice acting.
Yes.
So please forgive me. I did misspeak. And in no way I'm tend to offend or insult those who did the roles that weren't the original. They did the best job they were able to do, not having been the original character.
Yes.
So let's hope they bring Vic back.
Right. So, thank you so much for watching Mask Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.